All right, let's move on to a more serious subject here, our seventh ticker of the day, and that is General Electric, the industrial giant responding following last week's report from Madoff whistleblower Harry Markopolos, which claims GE committed a $38 billion fraud scheme by hiding its losses. GE's vice president of investor relations writing in part in a newsletter this morning that, quote, "Finally, some of the questions I've been receiving go straight to the heart of GE's culture, so let me be clear. We operate with absolute integrity and stand behind our financial reporting. We are focused on delivering on our strategic priorities, and we remain committed to providing accurate, complete, and timely financial information to you." Joining me now on the phone is Bob Wright. He's the former vice chairman of General Electric. And Bob, I appreciate you joining us today. Let me just first get your thoughts on what you thought when the story first broke last week and these claims of accounting fraud.
Well, I was very surprised because I thought that most of everything that was alleged has already been discussed internally and externally, and the SEC has been involved for well over a year dealing with some of those issues, especially the insurance issue. So and all the accounting issues, it's kind of odd for me. KPMG has worked with them, and so that seemed to me that was very strange. It was like bringing out old laundry and getting it out there in front as though nobody knew what it was. Now they did twists on it. They made it seem like it was fraudulent. They made it seem like it was illegal, and I guess I know a lot about that. I remember in 1995 when that business started. I had nothing to do with it, but it was a fellow by the name of Frazier who later became the head of GE Insurance, and it became a public company itself. But when it became a public company, GE elected to hold back the extended living program. And you know, I could say from my point of view that there's no obligation for any company to put up a reserve for something if they think they already have enough reserves.
So Bob, I just want to clarify where you stand here. It sounds like you're saying that the report that came out last week wasn't necessarily inaccurate. It just wasn't new. I mean, we're looking at accusations of GE's insurance unit needed to be bolstered its insurance reserves by $18.5 billion in cash, take a $10.5 billion charge because of mandatory accounting change that will take place. I mean, do you think those numbers stand as they are, or do you think they've been exaggerated as well?
Well, I think the numbers are exaggerated. He's alleging that GE has no reserve money. That GE is going to go broke, it can't meet its obligations, and I don't see any of that. I think the culprits addressed, the issues of reserves and the issue of cash on availability. But so I'm not sure what that's all about. The stuff with the oil and gas, that's a little tricky in the sense that when companies buy other companies and they close the deal, the first thing they do is not to write off, X millions of dollars. The first thing they do is to see if they can manage the assets so that they don't have to do that. And that's pretty typical, and I think that's what GE did. I'm not approving any of these things I'm saying, but I don't think there's anything in there that struck me as illegal or outside of SEC or accounting regulations. All this stuff has been reviewed by KPMG, every year for the last, 50 years. It's a long time.
Bob, Yahoo Finance did have a chance to speak with Harry Markopolos last week. I want you to listen to what he said about current CEO Larry Culp and then get your thoughts on the other end.
So you're saying the CEO has signed off on false statements?
I don't see how those statements are accurate given our research. Their accounting is totally non-transparent. They give you revenues and they give you profits with no expenses in between. Who does that? Why hide that? It's so that you can't do comparative statistics and analysis versus other companies in their industries.
So, Bob, you hear Harry Markopolos there saying, go ahead.
But he's complaining against the way that GE reports. That's that you can make a complaint against that. But he's also charged the company with fraud and illegality. That's a whole different issue. And the way, in that particular case with the insurance, with that insurance, there was a lot of times where GE could have bought a reinsurance for that particular insurance, and they decided it was too expensive at the time. They thought they could flatten it out. They thought it wouldn't be as bad as it was, and so it kept going and going. And I think during the period of probably 1915, 16, 17, maybe up to 18, before Culp was even there, they had opportunities, I think, at various prices to buy reinsurance for that, but it clearly missed the boat. They didn't do it, and now they're the company that Culp has inherited, has to handle all that. It's certainly a big burden, but he's not said anything like, I can't handle it, we aren't going to be able to meet that obligation. So I don't get a sense out of this. Isn't like he and his people have come in. I think they've done a very good job. They have a tough battle to work, but I don't think it's a battle based on illegality or fraud. It's just a battle based upon the growth of some particular liabilities, which should have been handled 5 or 6 years ago.
We've heard a lot of the critics of Markopolos come out and say, look, this is a guy that was looking for a payout. He worked very closely with a hedge fund which he does not want to name. And yet he's also, putting his reputation there out on the line as somebody who blew the whistle on Bernie Madoff. I mean, what do you think what do you think has motivated him to come forward with this?
Okay, I don't buy any of that. Look at Herbalife. Do you remember Herbalife?
Yes.
There were many hedge funds in the last 5 or 10 years that have decided to go to short particular companies by offering testimonials that they have prepared and they purchased. And Herbalife was one of them. And Herbalife was a fraud. It was things. So Herbalife has rebounded and is a better stock than it was. So this kind of, I don't know that that's illegal from the standpoint of the SEC to do that, but it's certainly unethical, and people have to look at it that way. I don't buy into that at all. I buy into the fact that GE has a tough time. And I think the people there understand that.
Bob, I think you've established in several of your answers talking about GE having a tough time moving forward. I mean, there are investors out there that are watching saying, what is the case for investing in GE right now? What is the upside? Well,
the stock is trading at $8 plus. I mean, the upside is anything. It's the upside is that the assets that they have, if they can mobilize. I don't see why they can't get to $15 or $20, which is what Culp is trying to do, because he's invested his own money in this thing, and but it's going to take a little bit of time, and he's got to be maybe a little bit more open. But I don't think, I don't see any fault in any of that. I think this is really a discouraging moment for them and for probably other senior executives, but they'll get through it. I don't think this is going anywhere legally.